Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing? Cloud from Blackcloud Gaming, and today I want to talk about Wildstar. Now, before I dive into this, this is actually the very first time that I'm doing this. Now, I played several MMOs in the past. You name it, I probably played it. And the thing is, here it is. I like MMOs. They're really fun, especially I'm a big RPG fan person. I love doing co-op with friends or with other people, and it's just a lot of fun to me, and I enjoy playing MMOs. I will admit, when it comes to MMOs, though, that is probably one of my pickiest preferences with MMOs is that they have to meet my standards. I have really high standards for MMOs, and not a lot of MMOs these days meet up to my standards. And I know it sounds shallow, and I know I sound like a douchebag or like I'm, being picky, but that's just how it is. Now, why am I talking about Wildstar? Well, I put about between 15 to 20 hours in the Wildstar since I'm now in the open beta, well, as is everybody else. But I've been playing it a lot, and I've been putting time into it, and I'm gonna try my best not to sound biased, but it's just a really, really, awesome, fun game. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm just gonna sit down and I'm gonna talk with you guys about the game because there's a lot of MMOs that are coming out now, and a lot of people are becoming very skeptical and apprehensive to try these MMOs because they're all the same, or people are unsure about it, or people are now getting into MMOs and they're just unsure about if they should play it or not. So I'm just going to dive right into this. So the first topic we're going to get into is, what is Wildstar? Well, Wildstar is a fantasy science MMORPG game. Now, just a brief summary behind it. The setting is that it's taking place on Nexus, which is, it's a planet that's out in the world. This is obviously very futuristic and all that, so we're on the Nexus planet. And the story behind it is that there was an Elden race that disappeared, like centuries ago, and they left behind a lot of like technology, like a lot of like high power technology, and there's two factions in the games. You have the Exiles and the Dominions. The Exiles are more of your how should I say, your underdogs, so to say. They're just a bunch of refugees and a bunch of mercenaries, people trying to get it back up on their feet. Then you have the Dominion, who are like, the fancy, high mighty empire people. So between these two factions, they find out about this planet, and now it's a race to that planet, to see who can get the technology first and who can pretty much take over the planet. And that's just a little bit behind the story. I'm not going to get into too much into that. So that's pretty much what Wildstars is at the moment. So next thing we're going to get into is the races and the classes. Now, the races, we're going to get into that first, is that there's some of the races are actually faction bound. So depending on which you pick, which faction you pick will also define your race. So going into the Dominion side, the races we have here, we have the Cassians, who are like the humans. You have Drakons, Chua, and the Makari. Now, I will leave a link down below for the site so you guys can see for yourself the full description of the races and all that. But I'm just kind of talking behind this. Now, anyway, now you have the Exile side. For the same thing, you have Cassians. They're generic between both factions, and then you have the Orns, the Granok, and the Granok, excuse me. And then every class can only be a specific race, as the humans can be, not race, a specific class, whereas the humans can be all classes, whereas like if I went to the Orin, they would only be like, let's say, an Esper, Stalker, or Spellslinger, but so depending on which race you pick, it's also probably going to lock what class you're going to be as well, which is not too bothersome to me. It doesn't really bother me too much. But there's a total of 6 classes. You have Warrior, Engineer, Esper, Medic, Stalker, and Spellslinger. Now, each class has a dual role to it. They can either be tank or DPS, or DPS or healer, or tank or healer, either way you want to put it. Now, I also want to talk about this a little bit because some people who are now getting into MMOs are a bit confused about the Holy Trinity. And first off, I want to get into that is my major thing about this game that I absolutely love. I love the Holy Trinity in this game. Now, for those of you who are unsure, the Holy Trinity is going to conclude of the tank, healer, and DPS. Now, this game is very focused on PvE, and that's player versus environment, meaning you're going to be grouping up with friends or with other group members or guild leaders or guild members, excuse me, to go out and pretty much tackle the world and go take on bosses or mobs or go into a dungeon together and just, plunder that dungeon. Excuse me. So, the roles of the Holy Trinity, okay, we're going to start off with tank. Tank is my number one favorite role, okay? That's what I like to play in MMOs personally. So as the tank, your whole focus when you're playing the tank is you're going to be focusing mainly on defense. You want your guy to be as, tanky. He wants to be beefy. He wants to be tough to take down. You want to make him as tanky as possible. Give him a ton of health. Give him a ton of defense. Focus mainly on defensive. He's not going to have a lot of damage output, yes, but he's going to make the party's experience that much easier. Now, there's a system in the game that I also like, that they have a system called threat. Threat is what you use to generate, hate towards yourself. When you're generating threat, you're basically making the enemy hate you. They're going to want to attack you. They're going to want to come after you. Since you have all that defense and all that health, you can take that punishment. You can take that damage, and you want to pull all that hate, all that threat, all that aggro, all the enemies onto you. That's what you're essentially going for. Now, as for the DPS, you have damage per second. The DPS role is it's their job to kill everything as fast as possible. You want like, I guess a spell slinger or a stalker. Those guys, they're going to be, your heavy hitters. They're going to make sure that they kill everything quick. They got to make sure everything, doesn't, attack the healer. That they try to get the mobs off of the tank as fast as they can. It's a very simple role. If you're a guy that likes to pick up a stick and just whack things with it, the DPS role is for you. You're going to want to focus everything into offensive, everything into attack. That's what you really want to go for. Now, with DPS, there's slightly different roles of DPS. You have the guys, like, say, your warrior. If you're going to go for a DPS warrior, he's just going to be sitting there, spamming his attacks and just hitting away and hitting away. Then you also have your DOT DPS. DOT meaning damage over time, meaning like, I guess, poison, fire, all that kind of stuff. They're not going to hit hard right off the bat, but over time, that's really going to drain away the enemy's health. And damage over time, or, it can be really effective, especially in PvP. But I'm not going to get into that. And lastly, you have your healer. The healer, they're not meant to get into the fight as much. They're not going to be focused on attacking things and killing things or tanking at all. Their job is to have as many heals as they can to keep everybody up to date. Now, as the healer's role, in my experience, is in many MMOs that I played, the healer's number one role, you're going to want to mainly focus on healing the tank the most, because if the tank falls, you're pretty much probably going to wipe most of the time, especially if you're in a group and the tank goes down and then it attacks everybody else and the tank's not there to get the hate. So I'm not saying you can't heal yourself and the other DPS, keep them alive as well, they're essential to the party. But in my opinion, when it comes to the healer and the tank, those two need to be in sync with one another. So wherever the tank goes, the healer needs to follow, the healer needs to stay on top of the tank, the healer needs to make sure he stays alive. It just focus on heals, and as well as buffs. If you got buffs, that can increase like defense, increase like your health. Make sure you keep everyone strong, keep everyone working hard, and everyone heal, and just keep them going. Keep them active. That's what you really want to go for. So that's the races of the classes of the game. Now, the only reason why I talked about that Holy Trinity is because, like I said, there's a lot of new people who are new to the MMO genre. Since now that a lot of MMOs are coming out today, a lot of people are unsure. I've been playing some MMOs here and there where a lot of people are a little bit they're unsure about what roles they want to be and how they want to play their character. So just remember the Holy Trinity. This game favors the Holy Trinity, which I really like. Now, the next thing I want to get into is the skills and your builds. Now, how should I explain this? You have your abilities in this game. And I'm not going to get too much into this. It'll be pretty much self-explanatory if you look at other videos, or if you go to the website, or even if you're in the open beta and you play the game. But for your skill sets, you have pretty much your abilities and you have your amps. For your abilities, you're going to go in and you're going to pretty much be able to, you have to buy your abilities as you level up, but they're not too pricey. And then you have a set as many slots on your action bar. You think you have 8 slots you can put for your skills. So you have only so many skills you can set onto your action bar, so you have to pick and choose carefully before you go into fights which skills you want to take with you with a fight. And within your abilities, you can give them tier progression, meaning you can level up those abilities so they can get stronger, so they can do more damage, or they can heal more damage, or they can make you more effective in a fight. Now, your amps is pretty much like a skill tree. You have a skill tree that branches out between you have assault, utility, and support, and then you can go through another path of a hybrid between the three. Now, when you go in there and you're branching it out and you're putting your skills in, you can pretty much kind of like, it helps you build your character with these amps. They're more like skill points, that actually allow you to like customize how you want to build your character. So in my opinion, with these skills and these amps, I feel like, if depending on how you want to play, no two characters are ever going to be the same. You can have 2 warriors, but that doesn't mean they're always going to be the same. You know what I mean? So I just think it's kind of cool that they have a lot of diversity to that. So that's just the simple skills and the attributes and the amps. It's not going to be, I'm not going to get too much into that. So next we have combat. Okay, so combat it's an action MMO, okay? So meaning, they have a little bit of tab targeting, but it's not too focused on that too much. You're not going to be auto-attacking much. You're really going to have to be clicking your abilities, or, you're going to have to be, like pressing your attacks, and you're really going to have to get in there, and you're really going to have to worry about moving away from the enemy when they do attacks. There's a lot of telegraphing in this game, which I don't mind too much. And for those of you that are unsure, the telegraphing is pretty much that you can see where your attacks are going to land, and you can see where the enemy is going to hit you. So, in most other games, if you don't see it, an enemy will do an attack, and he'll do like a fire blast, and he'll just like attack everything in sight, and you don't know where it is. You just kind of have to memorize where he's going to attack and have to get away from it. Well, in Wildstar, the telegraphing will show next to the enemy that, like, okay, he's charging up for an attack. You can see where the attack's going to land. You have X amount of time to get away from that attack. So if you're within the area of that telegraph, you're going to get hit. So, they have the dodge system where you can dodge out of the way, you can move, you can just kind of get away from that so that you don't take too much damage. And there isn't no global cooldowns as far as I can tell. It's pretty much, if you can spam all your attacks together, you can link your attacks, you can knock an enemy down and perform a power attack right after that, and then put up your shields and then heal yourself. You could do a lot in this game, and I really like the combat for that. It's really fun. It's kind of twitchy, but it's a fun sort of way. Now I haven't gone too much into the PvP, but I have done a couple duels with some friends, and it was really fun. I've done PvP in other games, such as like, Terra, the Elder Scrolls, and Guild Wars, and they were pretty okay. They were fun. They were not bad, but I couldn't get into it. But I felt the PvP in this game was, very fun. And some people might say it's the same, some people might say it's different, but to me, I found the PvP a lot of fun in this game. It was really fun. It felt kind of rewarding to me, like, especially when you're in there, every second counts. Like, you have to be careful how you use your skills, because you only get specific you get you get certain windows of time to use your skills, especially if you get up against an experienced player that knows what they're doing. And if you miss out on a split-second opportunity to use a specific skill, that could actually cost you the fight or the match or whatever. So that's the combat. Now, the next thing I want to get into is you have questings and you have your paths. Okay? So now, questing, I think it's very interesting. I'll admit I played Guild Wars 2 for about a year, and I was a little bit spoiled by that because I liked it because they got rid of the fetch questing. They got rid of, go here, talk to this guy, go do this, and then come back and turn it in. And I kind of like that. But they didn't do that as too much in Wildstar. You still have the fetch questing, but it's not too bad. I don't mind it. It doesn't really bother me at all. But I find it interesting because the quests aren't too generic, I sort of say. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. It's not like you go out there and you have to kill this enemy and do, escort this. There's not a lot of those things going on. They have very, they still have kill missions. They still have kill quests and all that. But what really affects the questing the most is your paths. Now, what pathing is you can pick your path at the start of the game when you're creating your character. What the pathing will do is pretty much, it's letting you play the game how you want to play. If you're a person that likes to just pick up a stick and just whack everything in sight, and you want to fight everything all the time and beef up your character, then you're going to want to go for the soldier path. The soldier path is going to allow you to fight everything that you see. It's going to, give you kill quests. It's going to give you, wave missions where you have to fend off a wave of enemies from a beacon or something. So that's pretty fun. That's what I went with. I thought it was pretty fun. Then you have the settler, which I want to add, by the way, there are 4 paths. Then you have the settler path. And, you know what, I have it here in front of me. I'll just read it to you guys, So the settler mission is to tame the wilds of the planet Nexus, collecting resources and construct beneficial improvements for community at large. Bravely facing the dangers of an alien planet for the greater good, settlers are sure to earn adoration of their companions as they adventure across maps. So the settlers are pretty much people who can pretty much dynamically change the map to benefit other players. They can, build things for other players or for themselves or anything. So they really get into the game itself. They really get into the community of the game, into the players. Okay, and then you have the scientists. The scientist has come to Nexus to study its exotic flora, dangerous fauna, and ancient technology, utilizing a powerful, upgradable scan bot to scan creatures and uncover lore. The scientist is living proof that knowledge is power. So pretty much, if you're a curious person and you want to know what's what, the scientist will be good for you. The scientist will send. That's kind of hard to say. The scientist will send you out there to pretty much, poke and prod away at the area to figure out, what kind of creature that is, what's in that cave. It just pretty much, it allows you to go and learn the lore of the area, so to say, if that makes any sense. And then you have the explorer, which I also thought was a lot of fun. These are for the kind of people that they really love exploring. So for those of you that played Guild Wars 2 and you guys were completionists and wanted to get all the vistas or the point of interest, the explorer will be good for you. The wild frontiers are the perfect place for an explorer. Often traveling to the most dangerous places on Nexus, explorers claim territory for their faction by finding hidden paths, exploring secret caves, and climbing the tallest mountains. So they're more of adventure kind of people that want to do jumping puzzles and, get to the highest point of the map and look out through, the trees of the mountains of the towns. The explorer is pretty fun. And, I guess I'll just read the soldier since I didn't read that too much, but I explain it. But the soldier tackles combat-heavy missions, gaining access to special weaponry and objectives as he fights across Nexus. Often battling waves of enemies, soldiers will use their tool at their disposal to hack and slash their way to victory. So that's what I find interesting about this game, is that I really like, is that you have questing and you have your paths. The paths really bring a whole new meaning to you questing in the game. Not everyone will be doing the same thing in the game all the time like in other MMOs, In most MMOs, it's like, oh, pick your class, pick your race, But then you get into the game and everyone has to do the same thing, With Wildstar, that's not going to be the case. Everyone's going to be doing something different. And in most cases, you will see most people, doing these quests, and you can, sometimes help them on their paths, and they can help you as well, vice versa. But the paths really allow you to approach the game in your own way, how you want to approach the game, so you're not forced to do the standard MMO grind that you always want, that you have to do. It's just, I find it very, very interesting, and I think that was unique, and I really like that. Now, the last thing I want to get onto that I actually found really fun. So, to those of you that love like the sim feeling, that you love to build your house, that you love to customize, you like to have your own piece of land, you want to invite your friends over for a little party, housing is definitely going to be for you. I didn't go too much into housing. I tinkered with it a little bit, but I didn't want to stop, honestly. It was a lot of fun to me. You have your own housing in this game, in the sky. That's what they call it, the house in the sky, so to say. But so from what I've read and what I've heard, I haven't experienced it too much, but you have your house. You could customize your own house. You can literally, you can customize like the walls, the doors, the ceilings. You can add stuff to it. You can decorate it. Even outside of your house, you have your own piece of land where you can put like a pool, a barbecue, crafting stations. You can literally. I think what they're doing with the housing is they're eliminating the public towns that you get in like most generic MMOs, where you see a lot of players, hanging out in one town and people are shouting at each other and trying to, buy things and sell things, and I'm pretty sure Wildstar is going to still have that, but you're not forced to go there anymore, I think now they made it so that you can queue up for dungeons within your own home, You can group up with your friends within your own home. Your friends can come see you at your house. Your friends, you could go to their house. You guys can group up. You guys can hang out. You guys can trade items. You guys don't have to be out in the open with all these other players, getting lost in the menus and getting lost between other players trying to find each other and shouting out and trying to look for each other. I find that very annoying. I love the housing because now I can say, hey guys, let's just group up, come to my house, and we could just set up a game plan here, and we don't have to worry about having X amount of people around us jumping over us, doing stupid emotes around us, and it just makes things weird and uncomfortable, and if you're the kind of crafting person, you like crafting but you don't like being on like in public, and you don't like people just breathing down your neck, like I don't know, but you could do that in the comfort of your own home. You could just go to your house, you can get all your stuff together, you can just craft there, and it's it's just really interesting. And from what I've read and heard, your house can get attacked by like bandits, like I'm not sure if it's actual players, but like NPCs, they'll come and attack your house, so you can defend it. Your friends can help you defend it. You can open up your house to just yourself, to your friends. You can even open up to the public. I found that really fun, and it's definitely something that I can see myself putting a lot of time into, and especially for anybody that loves the sim, aspect where they love to, they like to build, they love to craft. That's definitely going to be for you, and you guys are going to have a lot of fun with that. So that's pretty much what I just wanted to talk about, and like I said before, this is the first time I'm actually doing, a kind of talk about an MMO game, and I'm only doing that because it may sound biased, but like I said, I put a lot of time into the game, and I actually am having a lot of fun with this game. I adore the game right now. I'm in love with it. I've already pre-ordered it. I bought like the deluxe edition. It was like $75 or something. I couldn't say no to it. It was a lot of fun, but the biggest thing for me is that I love how this game it's more PvE focused. And most, they still gonna have the PvP there. You could still go and fight other players. But to me personally, I feel like it's 20% PvP and 80% PvE. And I mean, they still have the option where you can go into PvP servers. And for those of you that have played Terra, it's going to be something like that, where you're out in the world and other factions and other players can attack you, or you can attack them, vice versa. But it's an option. It's not forced on you. So, but that's what I really like. My biggest thing is I love how they brought back the Holy Trinity. That's the biggest number one thing for me, because in a lot of MMOs, I love to tank. Tanking is my number one thing that I love to do, and if I'm in an MMO where there is no Holy Trinity and tanking doesn't mean anything and there is no threat or hate generation system, then it feels like I'm not really important to the game, you know, to anybody, you know, because when you have the Holy Trinity, it makes players feel important in a sense, you know, when they go into groups or they're with their friends and they're a specific role, they feel important in that party. They feel important to their friends. They feel important to their players or to their guild that they can actually do something, you know. Whereas, you know, a game like, you know, like Guild Wars, where they don't have that as much, it's more of just like people gathering up together and ganging up on one mob. You know, yeah, you still have your healer, you know, you still have your DPS, you know, but it's not as effective as it is in Wildstar, where they have that Holy Trinity system. And I kind of grew up on the Holy Trinity system playing other MMOs, and that's why I'm into it. I love it, and I'm hoping that MMOs in the future don't stray away from this. I feel like it's something that they should stick to, because like I said, it makes people feel important. It gives people a job to do, and most people like to feel important when they're with their friends in a party or with their guild, you know. It gives them a reason to kind of get together and do something, you know. So that's just pretty much what I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to get into. So that's why I kind of went on this, you know, whole, you know, elaboration of what the game is. So I will leave a link below for the game so you guys can go to the sites, you guys can check it out. But, you know, so far I have to say Wildstar is a very fun game. I'm enjoying it, and for those of you that are on my channel, expect to see a lot of Wildstar videos. You know, I want to get back into my tip videos and how to videos. I'm going to be doing videos on, you know, how to do your dungeons. You know, if you have a specific class that you're not sure about a build of, I can definitely make a build for that class. You know, I'll be playing a lot of this game, so expect a lot of that. The game is in open beta right now until, I think they said, May 18th. I think they said. Let me just double check the date. I don't want to put my foot in my own mouth. Yes, May 18th. That's on a Sunday, I think. So yes, on Sunday, May 18th, the beta will close. So the beta started on May 8th or May 9th, I think it was. And then the game will officially release June 3rd. So you guys can look forward to that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Back already?
And you made friends.
Shut up and kill something. I'm starting to like this place. Oh boy! Nobody touch anything.